And today, the first guest of our summit is our good friend, Connie Breeze. It was supposed to be Jennifer Hammond. And about an hour and a half ago, Jennifer Hammond said, I am so sick, I can't do it. So prayers and wishes and well wishes go out to Jennifer Hammond. And thank you to my superstar sister who said, I'll be right there. What's happening, Connie?
How are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
Good. The queen of punting. You are the queen. That is for sure. Let me come over here. There we go. Hi, Teresa.
How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for asking me to come be a part of this. This was fun.
Absolutely.
Ran home from a meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you for, saving my butt, because not only was Jennifer supposed to be here, but she was our first guest. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be talking to myself for 20 minutes. And Connie said, nope, I'll be right there. It's okay. I got to thank you so much for doing that. Now, for those that don't know who Connie Breeze is, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I began at a very young age in radio. I always knew growing up I wanted to be in radio. I wanted to get to know the artists. I used to remember when there was the Brady Bunch and the people with the bus, the Partridge Family.
The Partridge Family, yeah.
I used to try to astral project myself into those TV shows because I wanted to be a part of them, right? And so my journey took me to a broadcasting school, which then took me to getting my whole thing is crazy. Okay. I'm in a broadcasting school. I'm updating my tape to send out to program directors. And a guy comes in and says, hi, I program a station in Tucson. If you'll come with me right now with what you're wearing, you and these two other people from the school, and you'll come spend the weekend so I can get to know you and go on the air, I'll hire you. And so I did. And that's how it all started. And it's sort of been like that ever since. It's a phone call. It's running into somebody. Somebody saw me somewhere. So I went from radio to writing for a magazine in Los Angeles called Hits Magazine, which was very irreverent, and interviewing artists, to back to radio again in Palm Springs, to Motown Records, to back to radio in Las Vegas, which is where I am now.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what? Hillary would kill me because I haven't elevated my computers. I'm not looking down when I talk.
Hillary, that's okay. Hillary's in Mexico on vacation. I don't think she comes back till Monday.
So okay, good. Don't tell her.
We'll see it later. But I was at an event. I was at Secret Knock a couple of months ago in September. And one of the cast members from Happy Days was there.
Yeah.
And he told on the stage, he was saying that, back then I thought, everybody that was on TV was rich, right? Yeah. And he said, no. We barely made enough to be able to survive doing, Happy Days. We needed to find other things. And he said the lead singer, the young man from the Partridge Family, told him, man, you sing, you need to start singing. So he asked the executive producer and the director of Happy Days if he could sing during the show. And that's how they ended up having a band in the cafe and all of that. And he started getting booked to sing. He did the Tonight Show and a bunch of other things. He said he made more money in his lifetime singing because he sang on Happy Days than anything he ever did as an actor. And that just blew my mind. You just never know how, television and radio and all that, because you guys are out there. You're out there with thousands and millions. And you think, oh, you live in a mansion at the top of a hill and you have millions and millions of dollars and you work because you love it, not because you need to. But when you're just starting out in radio or television, it's a job. I mean, you're struggling to get through day to day, yes?
Totally struggling, totally many times moving, because once you get into a town and get established. So for instance, I went to Tucson. I was on the AM station, my first station, right? And anything can happen. Your boss can get fired, station can change, you've outgrown it. So then you have to go to another market. And so that would happen quite often. Well, I just made all my friends in Tucson. And now I'm going to Portland, and so then I made all my friends in Portland. And then I went to Los Angeles, and it can be, you have to be very, really want to do it. You have to be very passionate about it and motivated to do it. And, there were a lot of things that I sacrificed to do it. A lot of my personal life that I sacrificed to do it. But for me, in what I wanted and how I weighed it, it was worth it.
Wow.
I mean, my friends in Michigan go, you just fly by the seat of your pants, but you're like a cat and you always land. And it's kind of true.
I had the opportunity many, many moons ago. I worked in the same building. I was at the League of Women Voters in Chicago, and I worked in the same building as the fly jock, Tom Joyner. And I would see him in the elevators, up and down, up and down. And he got called the fly jock back then because he was doing a morning show in Vegas or in Chicago and a night show in Texas, somewhere in Dallas. And he's flying back and forth every day. You do multiple stations even today, correct? But you're not flying all over the place, are you?
No, but I've had to pivot several times. And the way I had to pivot this time was I was running a radio station here in Las Vegas, and the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, they told all of us, go home. Last thing we need is a bunch of people near a microphone. And so for that amount of time, if you remember, all you heard was music and you didn't hear commercials either. So I took that as a sign, and I built this lovely studio in my spare closet. And I called a few guys and I said, I need a few stations because I'm not going back to the office. And so the guys who I'd worked with for all of these different years said, well, so and so and so and so and so and so are hiring, and they're all hiring virtually now. So I got to get ahead of that curve. And now I'm in Nashville and Champaign, Illinois, and Northern California, and, on the Greg Mack show all over the world. And so the fun hasn't changed, but the mode of operation has.
Okay.
And then, I do these old school cruises, which I love.
Yeah, you tend to cruise a lot and call it work. I don't know how you manage to do that, but you put up all these posts with all these legendary acts, and you're like, I'm at work on this old school cruise.
I don't know how you pay for it. That's what I can't figure out. Yeah, exactly.
How does that work? So let me ask you a question. You went from literally broadcast school to being vice president in Motown. How is that different in your world? Did you ever see yourself, one day I want to be vice president of some major record label? Or did you it just happened? How did that happen?
Well, I grew up in Detroit. And so I always was a big fan of Motown. And how it happened, I think, is so important for so many people because it happened overnight in 20 years, right? But that thing that is said about you never know who's watching you is so true. And my motivation and my intention and my attitude are what brought me this outcome. So I lost my job in radio in the early 90s. I went to write at a magazine in LA. Was it my first choice? No, but was it in the industry? Yes. So I wrote at this magazine for 10 years. And one day, Andre Harrell called me from Motown, and he said, I'm going to Motown from Uptown Records, and I want you to run the West Coast. And I said, run the West Coast? I've never even been inside of a record company. And he said, but I've seen you at conventions with radio and records. You'll figure it out. And I did. And it was not easy.
Ooh, talk about being thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, it was not easy. But my motivation and my intention has always been, who are these people? And what do they have to go through when they tour? And what makes them so fascinating? And where are they at in their careers and their lives? And why is it so important to Motown as a team to get these people to number one? And what are the different ways, other than just playing a record, that you can make that happen? And I had something I wanted to share, but I came in so quickly I couldn't find it. I'm going to find it and post it in our network. I have a picture of me all through the years with different artists, and it's skinny Connie, fat Connie, blonde Connie, piece earrings, Bon Jovi perm, no perm. I mean, it's like you see how you grow, right? And you see how you grow. with them through the years, and that it's all changing. And for people who are like, a lot of people are doing podcasts now, and a lot of people are doing interviews, and people just came up. And the one thing is that to get someone on your show, you can pretty much just say, I want to interview you, right? Because people are so accessible now, and they want to talk about, if they have a project out, they want to talk about it, or something happened in their life, they want to talk about it. Right. However, you said something to me that was came to me when I was very, very young, and I thank God for it. And that is, what is it about them? So I noticed, was my first breakthrough. I noticed people were coming to Las Vegas and interviewing at Kool and the Gang, different Boyz II Men, different groups. And DJs would say, how do you like playing Las Vegas? Well, that sucks. How do you like playing Las Vegas? That says, I didn't do my homework. I don't care that much about you. I have other things I want to do. And now I have you on my reel. So I get to say I interviewed you. But if you look at entertainment news, and you look at their Wikipedia, and you look at what they're about, you will find a gem that they want to talk about, that will keep you connected to them, because it's all moments. It really is. Like you and I, Teresa, we had created moments together. We always, like when we get together for lunch, we walk in, we start laughing. Because of whatever it was, right?
Yep.
I have certain artists, Jeffrey Osborne, and it's a whole long story, but it has to do with a restraining order that I always joked about. I didn't really have one, but I was on the Soul Train cruise with him, and he's walking toward me just laughing, because I said, I've loved you since you were in LTD. And I met him on the phone. I said, you're going to meet me in person. By then, you'll probably have a restraining order against me, right? Well, that's been our running joke now for like 20 years. But he gets interviewed so often, and so many people know him, that to have someone bring him to that moment, where you go, wow, I've been chasing you around for 20 years. I finally caught you.
That's hilarious. But let me ask you something, because believe it or not, we're running out of time.
Okay.
Let me ask you about fear. You mentioned podcasts. A lot of people want to do them. Studies proven that most people never get past their 7th episode if they start a podcast, and even more never even start because they're terrified of being on the mic or on the camera. What advice would you give them about fear and getting on the mic?
You just have to, this is my entire life. First of all, I'm one of the most fear-ridden people I know. And you have to the only way through is through. You get on the mic, you find somebody you're really interested in, and you interview them. You can always interview somebody and do it via Zoom. You don't have to do it live and say, okay, well, that wasn't very good, I'm not going to post that. Right? You can practice. We had things called air checks when I first got into radio. And that was your program director would listen to your show every week and give you tips on how you were great and the things they would have done differently. Well, we all know people who are podcasting professionally who would love to say, well, I think you do this great, but maybe you want to do this, right? I have mentors, and I know you do too. I have them all over the planet.
Yes.
I mean, I wanted to write a book, and I did 6 weeks of doing interviews that were not published with Mark Schulman, who is Pink's drummer, who's a speaker, who we had to make the framework of what were the questions I was going to ask. So I would say, be a beginner, be willing to be a beginner. And if you're a beginner and you're enthused and you're really interested in the person that you're interviewing, don't worry about what you're going to say. It's not about you. When I stopped worrying about oh my gosh, here comes this artist, what am I going to say? And just said, oh, how's your daughter? I saw that your daughter had a concert. It goes away like that.
Has there ever been anything that you said, I'm not going there, I'm terrified, that's not happening?
All the time. I mean, it's respect. Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It's respect. I interviewed the Jacksons. I didn't ask them, well, how's performing without Michael?
Oh, yeah, let's not go there.
Right? Because you can
Yeah.
see, you can feel the pain in their spirits when they're with you.
Mhm.
They're out honoring him and doing a great show and singing and dancing. But you have to know, I think there has been such a rush to let me get the scoop, right?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah. And I
disrespectful?
wonder the same thing about Frankie Beverly and Maze. It's like,
Yes.
how's Maze doing after Frankie Beverly passed this past year and things like that. So it's got to be different. It's got to be way different. And I feel for them. But I can't believe we're out of time. And I want to thank you so much for stepping in. Jennifer
Thank
Hammond is
you.
sick. You said, I'll be right there. And you were right there. You always are, one call away. And I thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thank you. I love this community. Thank you, Teresa.
Love you too.